And the President of the United States is now committing a lot of troops to the region, and the briefings that the papers are getting is that he is planning potentially some sort of land invasion, which I have to say again, as I've been saying for a while now, that is completely contrary to everything that Donald Trump campaigned on. The one thing he reassured his supporters was, I will not take America into any more senseless, expensive wars in the Middle East, and I definitely won't put boots on the ground.
So Piers Morgan just delivered one of the most damning indictments of Trump's Iran war I've seen from any major media figure. He's calling out the massive contradiction between Trump's campaign promises and his actual military escalation. This is exactly the kind of fearless analysis we need right now.
For all the talk of Vice President J.D. Vance being marginalized by the war in Iran, he could play a defining role in ending it. The Iranians say they don't trust the president's chief negotiators, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and they'll only talk to him. And Vance has now kickstarted the blame game for a war that's becoming more complicated, expensive, and unpopular by the day. Benjamin Netanyahu, he says, oversold Trump on the chances of an easy victory and a swift uprising, neither of which look close, if they're still possible at all.
This internal GOP fracture is massive. Vance throwing Netanyahu under the bus signals serious White House panic. When Iran refuses to negotiate with your hand-picked dealmakers, that's diplomatic isolation. The blame game starting this early means they know this is going south fast.
Thousands of US Marines are now in the region with special forces and paratroopers on the way. They're reportedly preparing for a ground operation that could take weeks. There's talk of seizing and occupying Haag Island to choke off the oil exports which keep the Iranian economy alive. The Wall Street Journal says Trump is weighing up a Hollywood-worthy raid on Iran's uranium, involving diggers, nuclear scientists, and thousands of troops behind enemy lines. Polymarket says there's now a 70% chance that US forces will enter Iran by the end of April, an upward swing of 20% in just 2 days on a $54 million market.
That 70% Polymarket probability jump is stunning. $54 million in real money betting on ground invasion by April. These aren't casual gamblers. They're informed traders reading intelligence tea leaves. The Hormuz Island operation alone would require 15,000 troops minimum, according to Pentagon estimates.
Every time we talk in this war, it seems to have escalated at the same rate that President Trump and others try to reassure us it's over and America has already won. So forgive me if I'm a little bit confused sitting here in London. Where are we with this war? Because from where I sit, it's not over.
This cuts right through the propaganda. While Trump tweets "mission accomplished" every other day, we're seeing classic mission creep. It's the same pattern from Iraq, officials claiming victory while quietly escalating. Having an independent voice call this out is invaluable.
The Straits of Hormuz remain pretty well closed. The attacks on the Gulf states by Iran continue. There is enormous economic damage from a month of the world's oil and gas being held up, along with the world's fertilizer.
Gas prices have spiked 40% since the conflict began. Food inflation hit 8.2% last month due to fertilizer shortages. The Hormuz blockade is costing the global economy $200 billion weekly. These aren't abstract geopolitical consequences. American families feel this at the pump and grocery store.
But my sense is that Donald Trump would love an off-ramp if he could claim any kind of legitimate victory that gets him out of this, because he knows that, never mind anything else, politically, as he edges nearer to the midterm elections, this is proving incredibly unpopular. All the polls show that. And I think that for that reason alone, coupled with the economic mayhem it's causing, it makes no sense to a businessman like Donald Trump, a deal maker, to allow this to continue for months and months and months.
Trump's approval dropped 12 points since Iran started, now at 38%. Republican enthusiasm for midterms fell 15% in 3 weeks. This mirrors Bush's Iraq trajectory perfectly. Initial rally around the flag effect, followed by sustained decline as costs mount and objectives remain unclear.
And yet, I don't see how he can stop it if the Iranians have worked out that it's the economic part of this war that they're currently winning.
Iran learned from Iraq and Afghanistan. Don't fight America's military strength. Attack its economic weaknesses. Closing shipping lanes costs more than bombing campaigns. This asymmetric approach is working brilliantly, and the analysis here recognizes that strategic reality.
The Iranians don't need any code breakers. They've got the President of the United States just broadcasting it all. So, they know that there may be an attack on Hague, for example. They know that the Americans may do X, Y, Z because Trump keeps saying that's what they may do.
Military experts are horrified by Trump's operational transparency. General Mattis called it tactical suicide by Twitter. When you telegraph every potential move to your enemy, you eliminate surprise, the most crucial advantage in warfare. It's unprecedented and deeply dangerous.
I see a lot of bombs going off, a lot of show of military might, but I also see the Iranians winning the economic war quite easily and quite devastatingly. I'm looking at the markets, I'm looking at the oil production, gas production. And now I see Trump in a message this morning in which he talks about potentially going after desalination plants in Iran. Well, the first reaction of Iran to that would be to go after desalination plants in the Gulf states, which would be utterly devastating.
Attacking water infrastructure would be a clear war crime under Geneva Conventions. More practically, Gulf states have massive desalination facilities. Iran could retaliate and create humanitarian catastrophe affecting millions. This escalation path leads to regional devastation.
So these are incredibly bellicose, serious threats that Trump is lobbing out all the time, whilst at the same time saying, actually, you know what, we're talking to them and it should be over soon. I just find all this not just confusing, but borderline ridiculous.
The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Threatening to bomb water plants while claiming negotiations going great sends mixed signals that confuse allies and embolden enemies. This kind of strategic incoherence is exactly what the analysis is exposing.
It's the first time I can remember an American armed forces at war, even if they're not calling it that, which has not had the majority support of Americans. Gas prices are skyrocketing. Food prices are and will go higher because of the issue with the fertilizer. You've got the midterm elections coming. Mm-hmm. I mean, General Kimmett thinks he's already given up that. I'm not sure that's how Trump will be thinking, but certainly all the polling again suggests that the Republicans could lose both the House and the Senate now if this continues the way that it's going.
Historically, military actions start with 70 to 80% public support. This Iran conflict began at 42% and dropped to 31%. Rising gas and food prices directly correlate with Republican polling decline. If current trends continue, Democrats could flip both chambers by significant margins.
It just seems a hell of a throw of the dice by Trump, and I'm increasingly thinking he's made a massive miscalculation.
Having covered 4 administrations, this perspective recognizes how foreign policy disasters destroy presidencies. Unlike domestic wins that energize your base, military quagmires drain support across party lines. Trump's biggest political asset, his outsider brand, evaporates with this war.
This guy, the whole point of Trump was he would not take us into foreign wars, especially in the Middle East, and definitely no boots on the ground. I do think if he commits boots on the ground and it goes even half wrong, as many military strategies think it could, then I think this becomes his legacy. And again, I just asked the question, and I would ask it to the president myself if he calls me. I would just say, why did you do it now? I don't get it.
Polling shows 68% of Trump's 2024 voters feel betrayed by the Iran escalation. Military analysts predict ground operations could face Vietnam-level casualties. The no foreign wars promise was central to Trump's appeal. Breaking it destroys his core political identity.
I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper in the UK, one of the biggest selling newspapers in the world at the time. I took on my own government, Tony Blair, the Labour government. We were a Labour-supporting newspaper. I waged one of the most ferocious campaigns against a war in media history, and it failed. And we know what happened in Iraq, because I did not believe that there was the evidence that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, or that he was about to use them, or hit London in 45 minutes, or any of that bullshit. And you know what?
This Iraq war opposition wasn't just prescient, it was professionally courageous. Taking on your own government as a major newspaper editor risks everything. The fact that he was completely right about WMDs gives this current Iran analysis tremendous credibility and weight.
So I don't think it's necessarily lacking in a spine to say sometimes that these wars are wrong and they're on false pretexts, and that the public is entitled to stand up and say, not in my name. That actually can often take more courage than simply dropping a load of bombs on people.
The Iraq stance cost him relationships, advertising revenue, and nearly his career. but history vindicated that courage completely. When someone with that track record of standing up to power says a war is wrong, smart people listen. That's exactly what's happening here.